Good evening, you're watching News Mongolia on MNB World, and I'm your host, Ipndala Ingamuklang. On the News Mongolia today, Mongolia's 2025 budget prioritizes education sector with increased funding and projects. Central Bank of Mongolia maintains policy rate, adjusts reserve requirements. Mongolians contribute to Turandot production in London. Stay tuned for other news. The revised 2025 state budget of Mongolia allocates funding for 190 education sector projects with a total cost of 1,330.6 billion MNT. Of this, 472.7 billion MNT has been approved for implementation.
The budget reallocation includes 31.4 billion Mongolian tugruks earmarked for school, kindergarten, and dormitory meal expenses, and 10 billion Mongolian tugruks set aside for the rental costs of facilities used by kindergartens and general education schools operating on triple shifts. In 2025, the government plans to construct 79 schools, 60 kindergartens, 6 integrated complexes, 16 dormitories, 9 sport halls, and 4 university buildings. To enhance meal funding, the per student dormitory meal allowance will increase from 4,300 Mongolian tugruks to 6,500 Mongolian tugruks for senior students, and from 4,000 to 6,000 Mongolian tugruks for primary and middle school students. Additionally, the budget raises lunch allowances from 1,500 Mongolian tugruks to 2,400 Mongolian tugruks per student. As part of the food revolution and new cooperative movements, the government plans to procure quality food ingredients directly from herders to support student meal programs. Despite amendments to reduce the overall state budget deficit, education sector representatives highlighted that expenditures for teachers' salaries and social welfare guarantees remain unaffected. Although the approved 2025 budget is 3.6% lower than the initially proposed budget, measures to enhance education quality and teacher performance evaluations will be flexibly adjusted within the approved framework. This revised budget underscores the government's commitment to improving educational infrastructure, enhancing student welfare, and maintaining teacher support while addressing fiscal constraints.
At its regular meeting, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Mongolia decided to keep the policy interest rate at 10%. The committee also raised the minimum reserve requirements for domestic and foreign currency liabilities by 1 percentage point, setting them at 11% and 16% respectively. In November 2024, the annual inflation rate increased to 8.1% compared to 7% in October. A significant rise in electricity prices contributed 1.9 percentage points to November's inflation, up from 0.6 percentage points in October. Additional factors included higher than anticipated price increases in services, rent, and imported goods, influenced by domestic demand and rising wages. Inflation is expected to rise further in the first half of 2025, with a gradual decline anticipated in the latter half of the year. The Mongolian economy grew by 5% in the first 3 quarters of 2024, although growth was slower than expected due to reduced activity in the construction and manufacturing sectors and lower production of copper and gold. Despite a downward revision to the 2024 growth forecast, the economy is projected to recover in 2025, supported by fiscal expansion, increased output from Oyutolre, and improved conditions following the recent Zot natural disaster. The MPC stated that the decision to maintain the policy rate aims to support medium-term economic growth while balancing inflation control. The increase in reserve requirements is intended to address potential risks in the financial sector and ensure overall stability. These measures align with the central bank's goal of stabilizing inflation and promoting macroeconomic and financial stability over the medium term. The bank emphasized its commitment to closely monitoring economic trends and making adjustments as necessary. Puccini's opera Turandot, inspired by Mongolian princess Hotodong, known as the wrestling princess and daughter of Haitu Khan, a fifth-generation descendant of Chinggis Khan, was performed on December 5th and 6th at London's Conway Hall. The grade second listed venue, with a seating capacity of 400, has been home to Ethical Society of England since 1929.
The 2024 production marked the centenary of Giacomo Puccini's death, celebrating his legacy with Turandot, presented by the London Performing Academy of Music. The opera featured young talent from around the globe, including notable Mongolian artists. The opening night attracted diplomats, international representatives, and supporters of the Mongolian cast. Stefania Pasamonte, president of LPMAM, and Onurma Genchev, co-producer and cultural envoy of Mongolia, emphasized the significance of incorporating authentic Mongolian costumes and set designs, a first for Turandot. This was achieved through the London Performing Academy of Music Opera Studio, led by Chiara Angela and Sylvia Zanon, following an intensive 5-day rehearsal.
International students, the London Music Academy, and the Mongolian team successfully collaborated to organize the production. Young Mongolian singers participated in a masterclass, including Timurlen, a bass vocalist who portrayed the role of Timur Khan. The Mongolian team contributed significantly to the visual elements, with costumes designed by the London Design School, Mongol Costumes, and Ulti Costumes. The set design was masterfully crafted by artist Atombayer, adding authenticity and cultural depth to the production. The Embassy of Mongolia also provided support to our event.
This was an incredible project where we embraced the historical finding that the Princess Kutulun inspired the Turandot, protagonist of the opera studio and of the opera, by Puccini. And we were very excited to be able to have a Mongolian Turandot wearing the original Mongolian costumes, having the original Mongolian gods and props, and featuring the Mongolian culture with the wrestler and the dancer, and the audience was absolutely captivated by this unique production. This was a world premiere, and it was a unique example of inclusion of different culture, embracing music together, and the fairy tale that says that loves will win over everything.
Around 700 attendees enjoyed traditional Mongolian cuisine during the two performances, supported by the Embassy of Mongolia in the UK, the Cultural Envoy of Mongolia, and the Mongolian University of Arts and Culture. The production showcased Mongolian art, dance, and wrestling. Timurlen Jamp, a final-year opera student from the Mongolian University of Arts and Culture, portrayed Timur Khan, while a children's choir added a Mongolian touch to the performance.
It has been an incredible 2 days in London, performing as Timur Khan alongside international students. This marks my first major role and my first visit to London. I had the privilege of attending a masterclass with esteemed Italian professors and a maestro, an invaluable opportunity. I believe Mongolian artists should focus on improving their enunciation to enhance their performances further.
So I found about this project on Audition Oracle. I signed for it straight away because this is my favorite composer, and especially this is my favorite role. And I love this opera. It's a beautiful music. It's a very challenging, but the project was a very strong experience for us. And we are very glad that we had these big singers like Chiara and Silvio. They gave us a lot of very helpful advices. So I'm very happy to be part of it.
The story of Turandot follows Princess Turandot, whose suitors must answer 3 riddles to win her hand. Prince Calaf solves them but sets a challenge of his own to win her heart. The production's music, including Nessun Dorma, highlighted the cast's vocal talents. Directed by Chiara Angela and Silvia Zanon, opera figures trained by legends like Luciano Pavarotti and conducted by Professor Christine Kimei, the cast included students and graduates from prestigious institutions such as Royal Academy of Music and the Mongolian University of Arts and Culture. This culturally rich Turandot production marked a milestone in operatic collaboration, showcasing Mongolia's artistic contributions on a global stage.
Now let's take a look at currency exchange rates provided by the Mongol Bank. Now let's shift our attention to foreign news provided by our international partner news agencies. Chang Young-soo, law professor at Korea University in Seoul, said Sunday that the deciding factor in impeachment trial of President Yoon Suk-yeol will be whether a charge of rebellion can be recognized by the court.
South Korea's parliament passed a motion to impeach Yoon on Saturday on charges of declaring unconstitutional martial law and instigating a rebellion. Chan said there was no doubt Yoon's martial law decree failed to meet necessary requirements and had procedural problems, but he also said the charge of rebellion will be fiercely debated in the court, making it a deciding factor.
The martial law declaration was unconstitutional and illegal because it didn't meet requirements and there were procedural problems. There is no legal battle on this issue and that point will be recognized in the Constitutional Court. The charge of rebellion will be fiercely debated in the court. As President Yoon Suk-yeol said in his second statement, he will say, "Why is this a rebellion? Is there such a thing as 2-hour-long rebellions? I lifted martial law because parliament demanded it. There were only a small number of soldiers deployed to parliament." President Yoon Suk-yeol is saying he will aggressively defend himself and even appear at the court. Unlike former President Park Geun-hye, the number of charges is smaller, but the charge of rebellion is much bigger in magnitude. Also, there are too many witnesses. There are dozens of key suspects and also thousands of soldiers and police officers who were mobilized on the night of the martial law declaration.
Chang also predicted that the trial may drag on longer than everyone expected, comparing it to the case of former President Park Geun-hye, who was removed from office after 90 days of trial. The law stipulates that 6 justices must approve for an impeachment to be upheld. As there are only 6 justices out of 9 currently serving on the bench, the decision has to be unanimous. Chan said there won't be any problems with filling the bench with acting President Han Duck-soo, but the bigger problem would arise if the trial drags on past April, when 2 justices appointed by former President Moon Jae-in reach the end of their terms.
Now let's take a look at world's current affairs.
Pope Francis left Rome early Sunday for a brief visit to the French island of Corsica that will put a dual focus on Mediterranean, highlighting local traditions of popular piety on the one hand and migrant deaths and wars on the other. The one-day visit to Corsica's capital of Ajaccio, birthplace of Napoleon, on Sunday will be one of the briefest of his papacy beyond Italy's borders, just about 9 hours on the ground, including a 40-minute visit with the French President Emmanuel Macron. It is the first papal visit ever to the island, with Genoa ceded to France in 1768 and is located closer to the Italian mainland than France.
Well, that's all for today. Thank you for staying with us. We'll see you tomorrow with more news and updates. Goodbye.